Hey friend, it's Avi from JustWriteMusic.com. I want to talk about depression today. I know it's not the most fun subject to talk about, but I do think it's something we need to take seriously and talk about more. If you're new to the channel, like this video and subscribe. It does a world of help. A whole world of it. And it also gets these videos straight to you as soon as they come out. So here's a hot take. I'm depressed. Like, clinically diagnosed with major depressive disorder. I also have an anxiety disorder, but we'll talk about that another time. I don't actually remember a time in my adult life when depression wasn't a struggle for me. I just wasn't always aware why things seemed so hard. All the time. You get used to it, which kind of sucks. Depression can take and keep a lot of things from you. Things like ambition, excitement about things that you know you love, and more importantly, belief in yourself and your capabilities. Depression manifests itself differently. It has different forms, you could say. Some of these allow for more functioning, allows you to be more functional in day-to-day life than others, especially in the midst of a major depressive episode. The way mine manifests is characterized by long and drawn-out depressive episodes. But it's not so hard and so bad that I can't still function in my day-to-day life, even if just barely. Today, I want to share with you 3 ways that I've learned to manage my depression to keep me functioning, whether you need to realign yourself in the moment or help you build a path forward to self-improvement and managing your depression. Like working at it a little bit. Takes work. It works. It works though. It does. Do it. And this channel is called Just Write Music, but this video won't actually have a lot to do with writing music itself. But it will help you write more music and write better music if depression is something that you struggle with. And I believe that that hugely affects our music. If you're a freelancer in some capacity, it's not uncommon for mental illness to come with the job. This is ironically makes it a pretty widespread issue, especially amongst artists, but we don't really hear about it too much. Let's get to some real world steps that you can take to start managing your depression. I promise you this stuff will help. It has helped me, and a lot of this advice is textbooks, things that you'll hear from any therapist. I'm not a therapist. I'm not a mental health professional. These are just things that have helped me, and I think that they can help you too. Okay, disclaimer's done. Let's get to it. Now, the first thing you want to do is to ignore the voices. One of the biggest breakthroughs that I personally had was realizing the depressive voice in my head wasn't actually me. I'm a very introspective person, and I tend to spend a lot of time in my head thinking things through, often to a fault even, where I'll get in these kind of obsessive compulsive thought patterns. These thought patterns, or cycles really, because they just keep going round and round, are usually the engines of these voices. I, and maybe you too, were self-identifying with them. That's what I mean by the voices weren't me. I believed that those voices were my conscious self, rather than just the result of neurons firing in my brain as a result of brain chemicals. Most of us self-identify with them unconsciously because, well, they're our thoughts. Why wouldn't they be part of us? It's a weird thing to think, but it also kind of explains some of those weird, crazy, terrible thoughts you have. They tell you terrible things about yourself all the time. It can get really, really hard. The kinds of things that you would never say to another living person, save for only people who have committed like horrible crimes against humanity. It's that bad, truly. These voices are insidious. They're always lurking. As a personal example, the voice in my head just keeps telling me to die. Now, to be clear, this isn't a suicidal ideation. I'm not in danger. I'm not planning anything. The voice just tells me to die over and over and over again. Pretty crappy thing to live with on the day-to-day. But these voices aren't me. That voice telling me to die isn't me telling myself to die. It's just an imbalance in my brain chemicals that's resulting in that thought. But listen closely when I say, those voices aren't me. Yes, there's more than one. We've only been really talking about one associated with depression, but there's others associated with other insecurities and stuff. And these are like the conversations that you have in your head. I don't have to identify with or listen to them. They exercise only the control I give them. And the same goes for you. If they bother you or make you upset or distressed, you don't have to self-identify with them anymore. One of the really helpful things that helped me start to manage and ignore these voices was to start building a more positive view of myself based on objective reality. Another way to look at this is to look at your actions in the world. What do you do every day? What do you do consistently? Chances are, if you're treating people better than the way the voice in your head is treating you, you're probably not a terrible person. You're certainly not as bad as you think you are. This helped me see that I actually have positive qualities. What do you know? And once you start identifying some positive qualities, you can start to build opposite mental scripts to counteract these voices. Think about them as a kind of defense that you build for yourself, or a counterattack. I think the war analogy is actually pretty apt because it does feel like a battle, one that never ends. But you can give yourself an edge in this inner conflict by taking opposite actions. Just like opposite scripts that I just mentioned, these are the physical actions that you can take to start subverting those voices, to start managing them and being like,
yo, no, you're just lying to me. This is just a lie you're telling me that you want me to believe.
It's literally, you're like trying to lie to yourself. What we're talking about is the process of catching those lies and stopping ourselves from believing them in the first place. This is one of the strongest things that you can do in order to prove these voices wrong. This is because you're taking a physical action, which is a very strong thing to do. We're not just in our head, we're actually acting, something that depression makes hard for us to do. So it's contradicting everything. Its whole argument is just going up in the water, up in smoke. Up in the water? For example, if my voice is telling me that
I have no friends and nobody likes me,
I can reach out to my friends that I know I do have rationally and ask to hang out or play a game or just talk. Now, the hard part here is not to shame spiral when somebody's busy. We also don't want to restart that voice in our head by saying things like,
oh, well, they're only friends with me because X, Y, and Z.
That's nonsense. They're my friend. They love me. They see value in me, and I have to take their word for it. That's all. It's simple, but tough to hold on to, especially amidst this inner battle. But these actions can be really, really small. You just have to start taking them. When the voice in my head just wants me to stay in bed all day and ruminate and wallow, just getting up out of bed and making a cup of coffee, or not even making coffee, getting up on the bed and moving to the couch is already an opposite action. The small victories are so important to celebrate, because if we don't, we won't know how to celebrate the big ones, whether they're for us or for our loved ones, regardless of how well we can actually fake it. Celebrating is an inherent act of positivity, something the voice in my head doesn't think I deserve. But like with anything, any skill, you have to start small and you have to start slow. It feels really stupid at first, congratulating yourself for getting out of bed or making coffee or getting to work on time. But it cascades until you start to notice that the view of yourself that you had is now shifting. Suddenly you don't think of yourself as much of a piece of crap anymore. Progress. Things I had to do started to feel a little bit more like self-care. And this teeny little beacon of contentment can start to take shape. But sticking to all this and reminding ourselves to do this is really, really tough. And there's always going to be good days and bad days. But the important thing is to keep yourself going, to keep up the practice. And it's a lot easier to do that when you're able to create accountability for yourself. Yes, I am asking you to get an accountability buddy. Literally anybody will do. A close family member or friend, a teacher, a colleague, a therapist, any of these are fantastic options. I'm really lucky in that I've been able to set up multiple accountability buddies for specific things. My composition teacher helps to keep me writing consistently and growing as a writer, something I am trying to help you guys with and pass that on to you. Just the act of having a lesson helps to fuel this, because usually by the end of the lesson I have clear directives and a clear path that I want to take with my composition or what I want the next composition or piece to be. Another accountability buddy of mine is my therapist, whom I've been seeing for over 3 years now, which is really, really cool. They help me maintain my mental health and keep up with my self-care practices through building healthy coping mechanisms, like going for a walk when stressed. Finally, I also have a prescriber. This is the person who prescribes my antidepressant. They help me manage overall feelings of wellness in the long term and to see how I'm doing with my medication, whether or not it's time to lower the dose or increase the dose if things are particularly hard, which honestly, like I love my antidepressant. I wish I could have gone on it a decade earlier than I actually did. I personally feel like my life would have been a whole lot different in like a good way, Maybe I would have started this earlier. Who knows? Finding ways to keep myself accountable to others will often give me the push I need and the motivation I need to actually get stuff done. That doesn't mean I won't falter though, for months at a time even. But it's coming back time and time again that really counts. It's the practice. I want to reiterate that I'm not a mental health professional, and everything that I'm sharing right now are things that helped me and that I think will help you too. I want to be clear. All this stuff takes time and effort. It's not easy, and you have to want to get better. Sometimes it's hard to see that getting better is even possible, or even to know that things are bad enough to warrant action. For me, I was depressed for so long that I just thought that was the default for existence. I was mesmerized by what my friends and what other people were able to do with their lives and why things just felt so paralyzing to me. It took hitting of rock bottom, at least for that time in my life. Yeah, there've been more rock bottoms, to see that it was time to get some help and time to really take action, especially with the pandemic going on and continuing on into 2021. It's more important than ever to be on top of our mental health, which is why I make this topic part of Just Write Music. That's all for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching and for hanging out with me today. Like I said at the beginning, talking about this stuff is hard, but we got to get it done, and we have to do it more. And you got to the end of this video, which means you're awesome, and I want to hear from you. If you ever felt depressed or have a depression diagnosis like I do, leave a thumbs up or something like that in the comments. You don't have to say anything about it. Even if it's just a loved one that you know is struggling with depression or any other mental illness, show your solidarity down in the comments. Remember, opposite actions. I'm not going to pitch my free guide in this video, though, because it doesn't really have anything to do with writing music. Who knows? Maybe I'll come out with another free guide that is like aimed towards musicians and songwriters and composers who do have depression or do have mental illness, and to help people deal with that from the day to day. Do you have any ideas? Let me know. What can I do to like bring mental health into the music space? What kind of resource would you guys want? I want to give this thing out to everybody for free. So that's kind of my game here. So I'm Avi from justwritemusic.com. Head to the website and do that. I can pitch the website, I guess. I don't know. It feels weird, but it happened. Anyway, I'm Avi from justwritemusic.com. If you're interested in this stuff, like I said before, like and subscribe and do all those things to help me and the channel, which is just me, do better on YouTube. Cool. All right. Peace out.